Hey everybody! So today I am coming to you for probably the last time this year from the front porch. The days are still beautiful, but the nights are getting down pretty cool. The other day it was only 48 when I woke up, and I thought, oh my goodness, I need to get my houseplants inside now for the season. So I've been giving it a lot of thought recently about where they all should go. I usually do change it up every year, and I have more plants this year than I had last year, so it always changes. But I'm pretty sure I know where I want to put everything. So I'm going to get cracking, putting all of my plants where they need to go. I'm also going to talk today a little bit more about my Phalaenopsis orchids, and I have to repot one and trim it back, so I'll be talking to you a little bit about that and showing you what I do with that, and just kind of get my houseplants buttoned up for the fall and winter season. So let's go. Okay, so I'm ready to dive in and work with my orchids. These two orchids are the only ones I have. I don't have a big orchid collection, and I don't have a vast amount of experience with orchids. I'm figuring it out as I go, watching a YouTube video here and there, but I just really love them. This one I've had the longest. This one was given to me about 2 years ago from one of my agents when we moved our office from Wilkes-Barre to Kingston. It was a gift from him, and I just loved it. And it had, you know, your typical long bloom stalk like this on it with beautiful blooms. And then the blooms died off, and I just cut the stem back and, you know, just hoped that it would bloom again. And what I did is I did repot it last year, and this really is not the ideal potting situation. I don't have it in a regular orchid pot. Most orchid pots are like this. They have, I don't know if you could see it, but they have perforations in the sides. So a lot of air, maybe you could see that, a lot of air can get through, because orchids are epiphytes. They are plants that live in the air. They're not soil plants. And so in the natural habitat, they live in the air, and their roots, you know, cling onto trees, and they get the moisture from the air. And they actually grow, you know, sideways. Like if this was in the wild, this would be growing like this. And so their natural growth habit is like out and down. And so when we want to have them in pots, we have to stake up the bloom stalks so that you know, we have upright growth. So we're trying to fight nature, basically, is what it is, which I'm not entirely sure is a good thing, but anyway, it's what we do. So anyway, you have to put it in a soil medium that's not soil. What I have here is, it's an orchid mix, and this is from a company called repotting.com. And this is a premium potting mix. It's Phalaenopsis Dark Classic Orchid Mix. And it's the, whatever, it's like cocoa coir and pumice, and I don't know, it's a bunch of moss, some sphagnum moss, a bunch of different things in here, but they are the experts in growing orchids, and so I just make my life easy. I don't try to concoct my own mix. I just buy it from the experts, and it's been working great because I repotted this into, this was in a way smaller pot, probably like a pot like this. And the roots were growing all out of it, and which is fine, but I didn't really know it at the time, and I thought, ugh, God, that thing needs a bigger pot. So I didn't know about the orchid pots either at that time, that it was really super important. So I didn't have one of these. And so I just got a big bowl and I put the orchid potting mix in, I put my orchid in there, and I was really careful not to overwater it so that it gets a lot of, you know, really dries out between waterings. And I just water it very, very lightly. And it's been doing fantastic. And this year I put out this brand new bloom stock, and it's actually two, I don't know if you can see, it's two stalks, and it's just gorgeous. So it's doing all right. You know, obviously I'm not hurting the thing because it's thriving. So I am not going to repot it this year. I'll probably wait and see if it even needs it next year, because I think this is a pretty healthy size pot. And as long as it's looking healthy, it's got nice, I'm gonna move some things around here. It's got nice, dark, thick, leathery leaves. Now, the one thing that I am gonna do is, because it's been outside all summer on the porch, it's a little dusty and dirty, and I have cleaned this before, but I'm just taking an old rag that's wet, and I'm just gonna wipe down all of the leaves and get them clean, because I could feel when I'm touching them, they're like a little gritty, and I don't like gritty. Don't like gritty, don't like dirty. So I'm just gonna wipe these off so that they can photosynthesize the way they're supposed to and breathe. So giving this a nice wipe down. But what they'll do is, when they're done blooming, then they need to kind of rest and recoup their energy and put their energy into leaf growth, and then they will bloom again. So I was really happy that this was able to bloom again, and it's looking great. So that's all I'm gonna do for this one. That one is ready to go upstairs, back in my room, where it's nice and cool up there through the winter. I don't keep my bedroom very warm at all. And it does get a lot of indirect light. These do not like direct light, and that's another mistake I did make with this orchid when I first got it, is I thought, oh, I'll put it in my kitchen window where it's gonna get a lot of light in it. And I did notice that the edges of the leaves started to look like they were burning a little bit, so I quick realized my mistake, pulled it out of the window, put it up in my room where it does get a lot of light, but it's indirect light. And that has seemed to work really well. So I think that's a great spot for it. So I'm gonna put this back up there. And this past year, my mother gave me this orchid for Mother's Day. And it has since lost its blooms. It had pretty pink blooms. It was really beautiful. But this one too, seems to me that it's quite crowded in its pot. And I feel that it needs to be trimmed back. You can just trim back the bloom stalk to beneath where the flowers were blooming, down to the first node, and just trim it there, and it might push another bloom stalk. But you know what? I feel like this has expended enough energy on blooms for me for this year. I would like to repot it, and I would like to put its energy, have it put its energy into, you know, more leaf growth. Let's put out some nice, healthy new leaves and get some roots established really nice, and hopefully it will bloom for me next year. So I'm fine with sacrificing possible blooms by cutting that stalk all the way back, but I'm kind of gonna do the same thing that I did with this one, but now I know a little bit more. Not a lot. I'm not an expert. I am just a lady who likes plants. And I'm just going to take what I learned and apply it to this one. Hopefully it will be as successful as with this one, but so far so good with this one. We'll just see how it goes, you know, and that's the fun thing about plants is it's a lot of trial and error. A lot of stuff that like works for even the experts might not work for me, and things that don't work for the experts that they don't recommend, like putting it in a regular pot with no aeration around it. I'm sure they would not ever recommend this, but it's worked. It was just one of those things. I threw it in here out of necessity and ignorance. You know, I really didn't realize I should have a slotted pot to put it in. Just threw it in here and watched how much I watered it, and it's been doing great. So go figure. So, all right, so I'm going to, first of all, before I get into actually repotting this and cutting this stalk back, I'm going to change the camera angle so you can see it. But one thing I am going to do to prep is I am going to get my pruners ready. I have my trusty Felco pruners that I absolutely love. And I am going to take some rubbing alcohol and a little cotton pad, and I'm going to disinfect my pruners because this is the only plant that honestly I'm very careful about as far as disinfecting my pruners. Now, if I did have a plant that I knew had disease, I certainly would disinfect my pruners after using them to make sure I didn't infect any other plant. But normally day-to-day pruning around my house, I don't disinfect these pruners. So it's probably good that I'm giving these a good wipe down just with alcohol and a cotton pad, getting them nice and clean and sterile so that I don't accidentally introduce disease into this nice new orchid of mine. So that is my prep, and I'm going to change the camera angle around so you guys can see a little bit better what I'm doing, and we'll get into this and see what these roots really look like and go from there. Okay, so now you can see a little bit closely what I'm doing here. So first off, I'm going to trim off this bloom stalk. Well, actually, first off, I'm going to get rid of the supporting stake. And I keep these because you can reuse those for next year. Thinking positively, when this baby reblooms, I will reuse that support stake. But actually, it's really quite sturdy. So what you want to do is you want to cut it down as close. Let me see here if you can see. Okay, there's the stalk. I'm just going to cut it really close down to the base right there. Careful not to cut my leaves. Oh, not all the way through. Trying to watch because the leaf is so close there, and I just don't want to damage that leaf. There we go. So I'm just going to dispose of that bloom stalk. Compost. Alrighty, so next I want to pull it out of the pot. Now they will have roots that are in the pot, and they will have these air roots. And I have heard them say that if they're silver, it means that they're dehydrated. But I mean, I don't know. My ones, I'm going to show you here. My other pot. Look at these air roots are so thick and just really firm. I mean, shiny, glossy, like, I don't know, you can't tell me that those aren't super healthy air roots. So I'm not concerned with the fact that they're silver. I think it's okay because the leaves look real healthy and the blooms, oh my gosh, look at these blooms are gorgeous. So, hey, I think this is a healthy plant, so I'm not worrying about that. But when I'm looking down in the pot, it's looking real crowded, and I'm thinking I might be seeing some roots that are not so healthy. So I'm gonna lift it out, and this is just a cover pot, which this is the situation that they recommend, that you have like an aerated orchid pot, and that you have a cover pot for it to drain down into so that these never ever sit in water. Now, if you can see, these roots actually look quite healthy. See how green They say when you see green, it's good. Green is good. But if they were brown and stuff, that would be not so good. So I don't know when this was repotted last, so I am just assuming, I'm erring on the side of, yep, you got a root that's coming out the bottom that just busted right off. That was old and icky. So I think a lot of times when you get these from the store and whatnot, they have not been repotted in quite a long time. So I'm assuming that that's the case. So, all right, I just dumped this out and just kind of see how that bark medium just kind of falls away from the roots. And actually this is it's in quite good condition. From what I can see here, I've got a lot of nice, healthy green roots. So I'm just gently getting this bark off the roots. And I'm just looking here. There's a couple roots that don't look so great, but like, you know, if you have a couple that aren't looking so great, not a big deal. Like this has by far a good root system. I was expecting it to be a little more sad than it is, but it looks pretty darn good. I'm not even sure if I'm going to cut anything off of here. I was anticipating having to cut a lot of stuff off. I see a couple of yellowy roots that look like, I don't know. Let's see here. Still working on getting this bark off. You know what? There's nothing. Let's see. Okay, here's one. This one is very papery. See, it just snapped. Just me doing that. It was not hydrated. I'm just gonna cut that off, get that out. I'm on the fence about this yellow. It may be fine. Just feels like it's a little bit not so great. I think I'm just gonna cut it because I feel like it's gonna come off. So I'm taking that one off. It's got plenty of other ones. Get that out of there. And this looks like it's got a dead spot in the middle. I'm gonna get that one out of there. But I mean, this looks pretty darn good. Okay, here's one that's dry it out on the tip. Cutting that. Oh, and I got a leaf here that's that leaf. That's not a healthy leaf. All right, so that looks good. You don't want to reuse old medium. You want to get all new fresh. So again, just getting little pieces off. Okay, so I got a pot that's quite a bit bigger. Put this down here. Got this pot, go into this pot. So nice size upgrade. You can see it's like a good inch all the way around. Well, yeah, maybe. So I'm gonna get some of my new mix here. It's again the Phalaenopsis Dark Classic Orchid Mix. And I like that they sell it in different size bags. I don't need a lot because again, these are my only 2 orchids. I don't repot a lot of orchids all the time, so I don't need a big bag. I think this might have been the smallest bag that they offer. But it is resealable, so I can use what I need. All right, so here I'm gonna show you a little bit here. So see how light this is? And it's got the sphagnum moss and the cocoa, just all kinds of good stuff. So I'm gonna put that down in there. And I wanna have room for my roots to grow. Maybe I can take a little bit out actually. And then you gotta start like shoving it in. Trying not to hurt your roots. But again, you don't want like big air pockets. You wanna have like, you know, a good amount of potting medium. So you kind of get it in there. There's pumice in here. Doesn't really say on the container what all is in the mix. It does say, oh, that just snapped, and actually it broke before, but it looked like it was trying to hold on and trying to come back. So I'm just kind of, this is the harder part of this, is just trying to work this down and in. Because again, you want to have stuff packed around the roots. Because this stuff will keep the roots moist, but not too moist. They figured out exactly what these orchids need, and they've done a really nice job of doing all the guesswork for you. Just packing it in there. Feels so rough when you're doing this. Manhandling your orchid. But again, you want to pack it in there. You don't want big empty spaces. You don't want your roots to dry out. Get it underneath the leaves. And as you water it, just like with soil, it'll settle down in there. You might discover you might have to put a little bit more, top dress it as time goes on, as it settles in. And then what I'm going to do is, when I am done with this, I'm going to take it over to the sink and I'm going to run the water over it, and I'm going to really soak it. And it would be good actually if I put it in the sink with the water and just really get the potting medium super, super saturated so it can really hold on to the moisture and give this plant what it needs. So I think I'm pretty good here. Maybe a little bit over underneath these leaves. Yep, a little bit maybe under here. All right, I think that might be it. So I'm very excited for this orchid's new journey. I'm going to give it a good soak, and then I'm going to look around and see if I can find some sort of a cover pot to stick this in. I really like the cover pots from plantarina.com, but I don't have any extra ones around. So I'm just going to see if I can find something to stick this in, just to act as a cover pot until I find something nice and white. I'm a big fan of just white cover pots. I like the simplicity. But oh, doesn't that look so pretty? It's going to be gorgeous. I'm very excited. So, all right, off to the sink to soak this bad boy. Okay, so my two Phalaenopsis orchids are now in their winter home, fall and winter home. So they're both on top here, one next to the other. And one of the important things I wanted to let you know about Phalaenopsis orchids is that you do have to be very careful when you water them, because they do normally grow in the wild on their sides, and we are forcing them to be more upright. The problem that it causes is that if this orchid were on its side, when the water comes from the rain, it would not settle down in the crown. And that's a problem that happens a lot of times with Phalaenopsis orchids, is people are not careful about watering. And if you let water sit in the crown of the plant, and it goes down pretty deep there, so you might think that there's no water in there, but there might be some way down in the bottom, and it will cause it to have crown rot. So you have to be very, very careful when you water these, to water just underneath the leaves and just get the medium wet. Don't get the leaves wet. And if you do, because it's hard sometimes, but just get like a Bounty paper towel and get the very tippy point of it and just really get it down in the crown there, and get that water sopped up. And then you have to like go underneath the leaves and you get down in there because you don't want any water sitting in the crown of the plant. Again, it's us trying to fight nature by making these plants go upright, and we're fighting their normal way of preventing the crown rot, which is because they grow kind of sideways and upside down. So that's the story with that, but I think that they're going to do really nicely here, and I can't wait to see if it blooms another bloom stalk for me this winter, or if it just puts on more leaf growth, which I'd be totally happy with as well. So we'll see. And this orchid bloomed out earlier in the spring, and these can last several months, so I'm going to be happy to see how long we can make these blooms last. And they should do quite well up here because they're about 10 feet from the window, and you can kind of see the late day sun is coming through, and it's hitting my Monstera deliciosa there, but it's not getting the bright direct sunlight, so it should do quite well. They both should do quite well. Actually, last winter I had my one Phalaenopsis up on that dresser, and it did great. So I'm thinking that this location should be just as well, and I can have both my orchids next to each other. So again, that's an experimentation as well. Sometimes just moving something 4 or 5 feet can make a difference. So hopefully it will do well at this location, and its new friend will do as well. So the second thing that I wanted to repot before I brought it in for the winter is my purple passion plant. I love this plant. It is so beautiful. I mean, this deep green foliage with the green, like velvety underside to the leaves. I mean, it is just gorgeous. And it's been very prolific. I think I bought this at Lowe's, oh my goodness, it seriously could be 10 years ago in a little like 4-inch pot, and it has just grown so big, and I have done cuttings off of it, and I have another beautiful pot of it over in my kitchen window, and I have some other slips that are rooting in my dining room on the buffet now that I brought in just a little bit ago, you will have seen. And this actually could be trimmed back. I really could take this back and get more cuttings, but I don't want to do that today. Maybe in the winter when I'm looking for some things to repot, I will do that. But for today, I just want to get this repotted because this has been in this pot for like a long time. This is looking so sad. I should have repotted this a long time ago, but it's doing really great. It's really healthy and like robust. So I'm going to repot it from, oh, I don't know, what is this, a 6 or 8 inch, maybe this is an 8-inch pot into, I don't know, maybe this is a 12. So it's a nice upgrade. I'm gonna get some nice, fresh, organic soil put in there for it and give it a new lease on life for the winter. So I'm gonna get my gloves on, and I'm actually going to stand up so I have a little bit better angle on this. And this is a pot this is just like one of those pots that I got. It was a hanging pot, and I took the hanger off, and it's got drainage in the bottom, but like I'm a big fan of white pots, so I save my white pots all the time, but it's got drainage in the bottom, so I have a nice clear little saucer that's gonna catch the water. And I'm just gonna put some soil into the bottom to start, and then I'm going to lift it out of its pot and then just do some filling around the edges. So pretty basic repot. I'm going to try to not make a huge mess, but that's why I have this big piece of cardboard on my bar. It's probably pretty root bound. Let me see here. I might have to get my little trowel and go down around the edges, and I can see like some mineral buildup along the edges that stained the pot. And oh, this is so overdue. Sorry, Purple Passion. I really neglected you, but you were thriving anyway, so it wasn't front of mind. But yeah, I'm just loosening these roots up, but this is probably, and the other thing too that really made me think, oh God, you better repot this thing, is I was watering it and it's like got a little crater in the middle, and I was starting to see all the roots, and I'm like, oh dear Lord, this poor plant needs a repot badly. So, okay, let's see here. There we go. Okay, yep. That's nice roots all the way around. It's good and healthy. Just set it down in there. Good. Now I'm just gonna backfill around this. And I actually might need to go get some more potting soil because I might not have enough. I'm just gonna put this around the edges. And in the meantime, while I'm doing this, my Phalaenopsis orchid is soaking in the sink. And I'm gonna show you that, where I end up putting that. Oh yes, I vastly underestimated how much potting soil I was gonna need. I'm gonna have to run downstairs and get some more from the bag. Not a big deal. Just kind of putting that all around the edge. Some on the top. Oh yeah, I need a whole lot more. So, okay, take a little break here and go grab some potting soil. Okay, back with more potting soil. So here we go, part 2. So just gonna finish filling this in. And it's so nice and fluffy when you first put it in, so it can be very deceiving. You can think, oh, it's all filled up and it's good to go. But once you put water in, it sinks down, and sometimes you have to come back and add more potting soil on top to get it all nice and settled down in. But oh my gosh, this plant is so prolific. And I'm kind of leaving some space in the back of the pot here because those cuttings that I have rooting, I'm probably going to throw those in here in a couple of weeks, but I don't think I'm going to make a separate plant out of those. I think I'm just going to add them back into the pot to make this nice and bushy, because it was getting very long and leggy, and I'm not generally a fan of things getting long and leggy. I'd rather have them be shorter and more compact and more bushy. So that's what I wanted for this plant. So that's why I'm saying that, you know, it is pretty bushy, but I feel almost like I could take more length off of this and get it a little bit more bushy. So I think it would not be a bad thing to put my cuttings back in here. So we'll see. I'm just gonna finish this up, get this watered in, and then I'll show you where I put it. Hey everybody, it's the next day. I had to break this up into 2 segments. So I wanted to just show you the last thing, and that is I got 3 new houseplants. Not that I really need new houseplants, but I've just gotten so excited about houseplants now that fall is rolling in. And I made a list the other day of all the different houseplants that I would really love to add to my collection. And I just happened to be out at Lowe's to pick up some more potting soil. And I just took a run through their houseplant section, and I found one of the plants that was on my list that I really wanted to get. And that is this one. And it's the Philadendron Birkin. So the Birkin Philadendron. And oh my goodness, just look at that foliage. Isn't that beautiful? It's so pretty. So the leaves start out dark, And then they gradually get more and more. See, this one doesn't have that much variegation, but it gets more as it gets older. And this one, and then finally, you end up with really nice, beautiful variegation. So this is such a beautiful, beautiful plant. And oh my goodness, it was only $20. And it came with this beautiful cover pot, which I love. I love a nice white, simple cover pot. This one does have like ridges in it, but I'm fine with that. It's beautiful. So I need to find a home for this. And then later in the day, I went to, oh, and also when I was at Lowe's, I also found this, and this is not, I'm gonna move this out of the way. This is not one that's on my wish list, but I mean, I love Pothos, and I have a lot of golden Pothos, and I just got that neon Pothos, and I happened to look, and this is just a little pot, and this is a pearls and jade Pothos. So I'm gonna show you. Isn't that beautiful? Look at that foliage. It is just so pretty. So I just popped it into this white bowl that I have, and it's serving as a nice, pretty cover pot. So I have that one. And then later in the day after I left Lowe's, I went to Aldi to do a little grocery shopping, and you never know what you're gonna find at Aldi. And I certainly wasn't planning on seeing houseplants there, but look at this. Look at this. This is actually called the Crispy Wave Fern. It's a fern, and it's named Crispy Wave, which I'm frankly not a fan of the name. I don't like any of my plants to be called crispy. I think that was a real miss when they named it. They could have called it Crisp Wave, or Green Wave, or Guacamole Wave. But Crispy Wave, oof. I don't like even saying it, crispy. None of my plants should ever be crispy. that just says lack of care to me, so I don't like that name, but it's Crispy Wave Fern. So, oh, look at that beautiful, beautiful foliage. And it's just so like stiff. It's just, oh, I never even knew about this plant, but beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So 3 more to add to my collection. I have to find homes for them. I will show you a picture of where they are ending up for the time being anyway. And I'll show you a couple of pictures of where my purple passion ended up, my ivy, spider plant, and one of the ferns. So I'm just gonna wrap it up with some photos of where their new home is for the time being. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day. Bye.